And here we are with Alan Briggs, the legend in the house. As I said in the intro, Tyler and Chelsea Hill are not Tyler and Chelsea Hill if it's not for Julie and Alan Briggs. If you're a friend of the pod, you heard Julie a couple weeks ago, and here we are with the less than better half. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, dude. Man, it's so fun to be here to watch you. I mean, we've probably talked dozens of hours on strategy for life, dreaming, creativity, your heart for people, content, and here is the space they all come together to some level. So it's been fun, man.
Yeah, it's crazy, and we'll dive into as much of it as we can. Um, Before we get into all of the wisdom and the fun stories and the inspiration, we are all so much more than our work. We're all so much more than what we teach. So let me ask you this, Alan. If you had a couple $100, you had a good weekend, you got to do whatever you want. What makes Alan tick? What is Alan doing with his free time? What makes Alan just come alive? If he had the world at his disposal, a good couple $100, a little bit of time, what are you doing with that? What is fun for Alan Briggs?
We're gonna go on some adventures, and we could. I'm probably gonna say, Tyler, are we going mountain or are we going city?
Mm,
And if we're going city, we're going to a B-rated city. We're gonna go explore someplace, be like, you ever been to Des Moines? No, me either. And we are gonna like eat our way through Des Moines. We're
mhm.
probably gonna get on some kind of e-bike situation. We're gonna discover some cool little spots. We're gonna talk to locals. We're gonna ask the old ladies what spot we should go to for tea, and the old guys where we should go for breakfast. And we're gonna explore Des Moines for like $220. We're gonna laugh a lot, eat well, gain a few pounds, run a few miles. Um, and go on some kind of adventure.
Mhm.
That's who I am. That's what I love doing.
Yep.
And maybe we climb a mountain. I don't know. Maybe you take me on some crazy trail run and kick my butt, or
Mhm.
maybe we just walk our way through Des Moines.
I love it. What makes a city a B-rated city, and why are you picking the B? Why aren't we going to New York City or Los Angeles?
Like I got a crush on the cities that are like kind of cute, and people are like, huh, like Buffalo. That'd be cool for like a day, or like what's going on there where you'd go for a business trip and
Yep.
then maybe hang for a few more hours, not the place you'd go to for a vacation. So I think what makes them cool is that there's undiscovered things there, there's community happening there, there's amazing people, and they're not overrun by tourists. So you and I live in a beautiful tourist city,
Mhm.
but is underrated in some ways, and people don't know how cool it is because the people make it. And I found going on, I think 16 years, my brother, dad, and I have gone to these what we call B-rated cities. We're talking about Buffalo, Indianapolis, Boise, and like what's going on in Boise? I don't know. Let's go check it out. So I think it's cool that it's undiscovered,
Yep.
and we always find amazing people. We always find people creating communities, not outside tourist money that is funding communities, and we're just blown away every time. And I think it reminds us about so many good humans walking the earth that you won't see on the news cycles.
Yeah, that's so good. So if you missed that, Alan and his brother and his dad every year they make a pilgrimage to one of these cities and explore them. So instead of having a man's trip to wherever, they intentionally pick one of these cities to adventure through. What's one of the cities rather that has just blown your mind? The one that you maybe didn't expect, or spill the beans on the one that we should go to if we wanted to visit one of those cities, and what made it so special.
Little Rock, Arkansas just stood out to us as like Little Rock. And it has to be a city we haven't spent significant time in. Maybe we've driven through it. We're like, man, what's going on there? And I don't know. There was something about there's usually water that goes through cities. When you think about it, usually there's a river or something, and we try to kayak and we try to bike or hike or walk a lot, and it's different to be able to see the city from that angle. And I don't know. There's usually baseball in that. That's something we try to do. We do this in the late summer. So there's minor league baseball, and there's just a cool park there. Um, But man, I mean, every single one, Tyler, is amazing for a particular reason. So I think there's the experience that was awesome. There's also just the context. We met the right people who are like, this dude goes, hey, I got kayaks for you, and like bikes down all the way to make sure we have this incredible experience, gets us on the river. We end up posting about this new company and go, you got to rent from these guys. They're amazing. And it gets, thousands of Google hits later, our reviews, because we ended up sort of boosting their business. And just we just have the coolest stories of these people to go. I don't know why they showed us wild hospitality, but because they did, we were able to return it, and their business is still thriving today. So I think that's part of what made Little Rock such a freaking cool experience.
Yeah, I love that. You know, Alan, you're somebody who adventures a lot. You tend to make the most of your life. And you happen upon, you're one of those guys that just happens upon some of the craziest things. We were talking about this at the soccer game, how your wife was like, "How do you find these adventures? How do you, and you've been someone who in my own life has spurred me on to make the most of my life and to become my best self. For someone who's like maybe bored in their life, who doesn't seem to happen upon adventures or crazy people that can get you on the river, what would you say to someone who is saying, okay, I'm stuck. I want to have an exciting life. Like, I want someone to say, man, Tyler really lived his life. How does someone get unstuck? How do they find adventure? How do they become someone who can experience life rather than just letting life happen to them? You're an icon of just making the most of it. How did somebody get unstuck in that regard?
Here's what I think is true, and like I don't even know that this is true, but in the last few days I've been messing around with this. So I may have to go on and be like, that's actually not what I think. But I think what's true is that a very spontaneous person, their pathway to parts of a good life is actually through more rhythm and routine than they want.
Mhm,
Somebody who is stuck on stability, i.e., safety of rhythm and routine, their pathway is actually through risk and more spontaneity.
mhm,
So I think we have to actually understand, what is my hardwiring?
mhm,
And then what would pushing against that look like? So me, the lie that I believe, Tyler, is if I had more space, life would be great. If I had more money, then
mhm,
I'd be able to make these adventures happen. If I had more free time, then my life would be really exciting. And like that's the lie that I live with
mhm,
and have to tell truth to each week.
mhm,
So for me, rhythms have been, and planning ahead, these non-sexy things have been the gateway to
mhm,
that. And so that could look like regularly texting 15 or 20 people who I know and just checking in on, hey, what's new? How you doing? That leads to conversations, which leads to opportunities down the line. Because I have that. I have a spreadsheet. This sounds awful to me, but I have it. A spreadsheet of about 278 leaders, I think, who are people in our city, just great humans in our city that I need to regularly interact with and check in. They're fascinating people. We mentioned one of them before we started recording, and just like,
mhm.
yeah, there's just a person. I don't want him to get lost there. That's more structure than I want, Tyler. I'm spontaneous, but that allows me to do that. I see so many people stuck in their life, which I think is primarily what you're talking about, who live within, they're stuck within the routine and they need to bust out of it. And
Mhm.
I was thinking like the other day, I went running really, really early in a place I'd never have before work. What happened? It released something new for me. It was during my regular exercise slot, but I was like, instead of going to the gym, I'm going to go over here.
Mhm.
And instead of whatever with friends. Maybe you get together and drink a beer with friends regularly. Now you need to go on a hike with friends.
Yeah.
Maybe you regularly just pick up a book
Mhm.
randomly and you're like, you know what? I'm actually just going to turn off my phone, put it in my car, and sit in a coffee shop looking like a freak for an hour,
Mhm.
looking around
Mhm.
and just thinking. So, how do we make those little shifts? Is the point. Like, I
Mhm.
have some cool trips and cool adventures coming up, and that's amazing. But, like, that's not the essence of life. It's taking my kid to the pool,
Mhm.
sitting with my feet in the grass, laying in a hammock, like at the pool, and going, I'm not working right now. How cool is my life that it's 2 o'clock, it's 95 degrees, and I sit at our cheesy little pool?
Mhm.
Like that isn't life changing to anyone, but the thoughts I've had at that pool when doing that about
Mhm.
what matters, which is actually my family above the emails I could be answering, is actually currently changing my life.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, it's so good. So to the person who would say, just to kind of double down, maybe even a little more practically here, I don't have any money. Like my bank account's at $10. I have 1 day off a week. I work at a
In
restaurant,
there.
been there. I got $10. I have 1 day off a week, but I want an interesting life. I want to go on an adventure. I want to go on a trip. Yeah, that's cool, Alan. You coach people, you have a business, you whatever. Um, what do they do? How do they do something interesting with only $10, with no creative ideas? They're not spontaneous. Help them adventure.
People, new experiences
Mhm,
in a new way. People, experiences,
mhm,
new experiences in a new way. Who are the people that you need to reconnect with? And I have this spot in my journal regularly. Who do I need to reconnect with?
mhm,
And there was some guy, I think you've met him, to his name's Johnny, and he's just spark plug. And you get plugged in with this dude, you think about new ideas, he asks great questions. And I was like, I haven't gotten with Johnny in a while. And literally just said, hey man, let's get some time. And when can you? Oh, tonight, my life opened up. We went for a walk. Now it's cheating in our city because it's beautiful in Colorado. I get that. But we could have been on a walk, through the woods
mhm,
in Illinois. And we talked for 4.5 miles.
mhm,
That was the adventure. It cost us $0, arguably $2 of gas to drive there.
mhm.
Um, and it changed both of our lives. And the next day it was like, man, that was rich. Man, my heart's full. And again, battling that lie that if it's not amazing, it doesn't count. It's not like on a rooftop overlooking the sunset by Pikes Peak. It's like walking through a very basic park that you and I have been through many, many times. So I think it's that. I think it's the people, it's new experiences. Again, change that up. Change up how you meet. I can't stay inside in my studio and coach people all summer. It's, hey, would you mind if we go outside? Would you mind if we take a walk while we're doing this? And it releases something new. Or the last one is in a different way.
Mhm.
In a different way. How do you do the things you already do, but in a different way? I love to ask this question. What would have to be true in order to blank? That's how most of my adventures happen, by the way. Like,
Mhm.
what would be true in order to, when we were broke as a joke, go on this international trip with blank? And then we start the conversation of like, hey, Tyler, what would have to be true, man? Do you want to do this? How could this happen? Whatever. And it's crazy. Once you start dreaming toward it, you move from that scarcity mentality to that abundance, and it flips the script in your mind, and you're like, okay, what would have to be true? I'd either have to have money or frequent flyer miles. Oh, my friend said he has extra frequent flyer miles. Maybe I should contact him. It
Yeah.
may be a different adventure than you dreamed. And it may not be Tahiti,
Mhm.
but it could be Tacoma. And you could go, oh man, what if I am paid to go on that trip and then tack on an extra day and connect it with friends in a new way? So it's honestly, we have to rewire our brains to think differently. The adventure is in here and in the relationships we probably already have. It's not somewhere magically out there. And like, I'm preaching to me right now.
For sure. Yeah, my wife is very good at that. And like for example, right now we're gonna run the Honolulu Marathon in December. And we've paid for the race and we've paid for our tickets there. We have no idea yet. So the point is, the dream was, what
Yeah.
needs to be true for us to run a race in Hawaii? Well, we paid for the race in Hawaii.
Yep.
That has to be true. Now we have the tickets there. We don't know where we're sleeping yet, and we don't have tickets back, but we're halfway there, and we're
I
gonna run
love
the
it.
race in Hawaii.
I
Now,
love it. Trick yourself into doing it.
yeah,
There are
yeah.
people with so much more money
Uh-huh.
than my wife and I have ever had,
Hmm.
arguably more autonomy in their lives, i.e., they don't have 4 kids.
Hmm.
Um, and we have done exponentially more experiences than them. Not that we're comparing, but they're like, oh, I wish we could, and someday. And I'm like,
Hmm.
you can. You have so much more time, money, and freedom than we do.
Yeah.
And yet we've been able to figure it out. So for us, it's we book our trips before we had childcare
Hmm.
because I'm like, I'm not canceling a trip. I'm not wasting money on this. So I love that, dude. It's that. What would have to be true? Well, we're gonna book this a piece at a time. We're
Yeah.
gonna make it happen. Somebody listen on this podcast. Maybe you need to throw them some miles. Maybe you need to throw them some cash. You're throwing it out there, having that happen, and then boom, the next thing you're looking for, maybe somebody
Yeah.
hires you out to do something, and you're like, that would cover the way back. Boom. So it's crazy then how our minds create the pathway once we actually create the step. Someday, dude, someday is a long way away if we don't actually take our first step.
Yep. How does this translate, Alan, into like our vocations? You know, like you coach a lot of people, and in my work in spiritual direction and some of the coaching I do, right? So many people tend to have this just ache in their life. My work sucks. It doesn't have any purpose. I don't get to do what I love. There's always that tension. If I just had a job that was perfect for me, then my life would be fulfilling. You know, and you've been someone who has really designed your life to be fulfilling in many ways. And of course, there's also the sucky parts that exist. But what does life design look like for you, and how does that intersect with, say, these grand adventures, going on cool trips, doing fun walks with interesting people, and our work life? Because work life isn't always as amazing as it is. You and I get to do really fun things for work, and yet, even still, it's hard to always make it manifest in this grand, meaningful way. How do people find meaning in their work when it sometimes has a juxtaposition to, say, making the art they want to make, or um, going on the adventures they want to go on? What does that life design look like for you, and how do you help other people make that reality in their story?
First of all work is meaningful,
Mhm,
but it doesn't feel all as meaningful, if that makes sense. All work is meaningful. It's dignifying
mhm,
in and of itself. And yet it doesn't feel that way. So I realize, again, I get to be doing something that is exactly what I want to be doing, and I hope to steward that well. So I think it's worth saying that first, but to say I used to do landscaping back in the day. And there was this incredible feeling of leaving something that was finished.
mhm,
And then I moved into people work
mhm,
where there is no marker at the end of the day that it's finished. And I found myself on the hard days in people work going, man, I wish I could pull away from a job like I did in landscaping. And then shake my head and be like, no, like I don't want a sore body. And that was so hard. And so just to acknowledge there are good and hard things about all kinds of work. Not
mhm,
all work we get paid for. In fact, I would argue that most work that is holy, that is sacred, our vocation, we're not paid for. And like I'm taking my daughter to a rite of passage, my youngest to a rite of passage
mhm,
this weekend. And like we're going to receive, it's going to be joy, but that is going to be sacred work.
mhm,
I have questions teed up for her to ask her in the car on the way there. And we have things that we're going to do together along with this other group of dads and daughters.
mhm,
That's sacred work to do. And I need to block it off and be completely off from everything else to be able to do that. You said the word design, and I do see life as life design. Personally, what my life vantage and my faith tell me is actually that God is a designer and
mhm,
he invites us to participate in designing our lives.
mhm,
And what absolutely makes me sad, like deeply sad, is that most people have a passive role in their life, not an active one. And I believe that God actually, as the great designer, invites us to co-design our lives with him. Now, I can't go design any life that I want against my design. I'll get splinters if I go against the grain of that. There's like, do not put me in a job that's number centric.
mhm,
I would get in tax problems. I would create issues. I would get fired so fast, and it would be a terrible. Do not hire me to do your numbers for your business for you, Tyler.
yes.
But people and narrative and conversation and principles all day long. I absolutely love it. So when we're going with the grain of it, there's this deep fulfillment underneath the surface, and then there's the spark, this fruit above the surface to us and to others. So I just form and function. All good design is based on form and function.
Mhm,
And I think first we have to figure out our wiring. What raw materials do we have to work with? And to go, well, who cares if I want to be a financial analyst? Who cares if I want to be a full-time stock trader?
mhm,
Like those aren't the skills I have. My friend has those skills,
mhm,
and I think he's the smartest guy in the world. He may think I'm the smartest guy in the world because I have different skills that are completely out of his skill set. So it's form and function, it's working in the lens of that. And then I think last, how do we make this work in time and space?
mhm,
And to say, right now, in this season of life, I am a busy dude. I'm the after school parent. Julie runs this, incredible foster care work, and she needs to work till 5:30 every day. So
Mhm.
I have changed my coaching schedule, had people work around me, and even make less money if needed to be able to get off at 2
Mhm.
for this time. When I'm an empty nester, my world's going to open up. I don't know what I'll do from 2 to 5 or 6 every day, but like
Mhm.
that's for another day. I don't need to redesign that, but I see it as active, as dynamic, as something that like can be interacted with, not life happening to me.
Yes.
And I have to fight that off every single week
Mhm.
because the routine does feel like it's coming for me every single week. And so still I have to keep active just like we do in our health or just like we do in anything good, healthy, true, or beautiful in our lives.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that life design is proactive. We happen to life rather than letting life happen to us.
Yes.
And the first step of that is to find my wiring, kind of what, so that I can work with the grain of the wood. What does that mean to find your wiring, or how would you um, teach someone to start to figure that out so they could design their life in flow with their wiring? What does that look like?
I think the easiest way is to make a simple drains and fills list. So open up a journal, left page, the things that drain me, right page, the things that fill me. Don't spend too much time asking why or why not. I don't know. I don't know why small details and spreadsheets drain the life out of me.
Mhm.
And I don't know why asking Tyler, what's the big dream in your life that you're going after, fills me. I'm not sure. It's the exact opposite for my friend.
Mhm.
And in starting there, we have to pay attention to what we pay attention to. Like what drives you crazy?
Mhm.
And that for me is part of my drains list.
Mhm.
What like I can't not think about? Like what is that dream that hasn't gone away for 10 years? And for me, like it was a cabin. Like I've just loved mountain cabins. I'm like, okay, what's behind that?
Mhm.
I've loved like plaid and fly fishing and vintage and like so many of these things. Like I don't know why, but I just do. I pay attention to that. I love beautifully aesthetic places, whether it's out in creation and natural or human environment and creative. I love exploring B-rated cities. I love tacos. I have one tattooed on my uh, right exactly where my wife has my name tattooed, which she probably talked about here on this podcast. I love tacos and Julie. I don't know why I love those things, but I do. And so to spend time, even invest time going, man, what does that look like? I got that walk hike with my friend Johnny the other night
Yeah.
to go. I love time and creation. I love walking and movement. I process that way. And I love getting together with interesting people who are searching for next.
Mhm.
So to me, that's an easy yes if I've got a couple free hours to be able to do. Drains list, fills list, pay attention to what you pay attention to.
And then what do you do with the list? I could see someone just overwhelmed with that list. This is all the things I love. I love baseball. I love coffee. I love whatever.
Yep.
Then what?
More of these, more of the fills, less of the drains. Get yourself moving.
Mhm.
Humans, we are designed for movement,
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
action. I will go around traffic 30 minutes just so I keep moving because my brain needs to know that I am making progress. You don't have to figure it all out, but our brains are like our most people's worst pain is being trapped.
Mhm.
Fear. I'm trapped on stage and I don't know what to say with pit stains or whatever,
Yep.
looking like an idiot. I'm trapped in this relationship. I'm trapped in pain. I'm stuck here. I can't get out. I'm claustrophobic within my life. So, what that says is that the opposite of that is like, I just need to see movement. With my coaching clients, I'm working with very successful people who you would say they got it going on in every area and they feel stuck
Mhm.
in 2 or 3 areas of their life. And if we can just get ourselves moving, then that's beautiful. Like, I don't need to know that I could run a marathon tomorrow, Tyler. I just need to know I'm a little stronger in my running than I was last week. We're fighting different races, right? You're going to run Honolulu 26.2. I
Mhm.
did one marathon. I think I'm cool with that. I may never do another one again, but I am going on a pilgrimage and I need to know that every day I could stack miles on top of each other without beating my body and falling apart. So I think that movement piece, can you see this raise a little bit and this go down a little bit?
Mhm.
And so like the baseball analogy is to go like, man, there's 100 ways to feed your love of baseball. What does that look like?
Mhm.
But I'd say like pull out your glove
Mhm.
and call a friend and say, can we throw the ball and smell leather for 15 minutes? That's good enough than watching the Rockies, who are struggling pretty badly this year.
Yes.
Go watch a game. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
totally. And again, I think the clarity almost never comes until you move.
Nope.
Maybe never.
Yep.
I don't think at least in my experience, the clarity on what I'm actually doing doesn't happen until I start kind of faking it or even pretending that it's going to happen. The
So
clarity doesn't happen until you move.
business, like so many people come to me, should I start the thing or what's the thing? And they get in this death spiral.
Mhm.
And I go, you don't even know if you like coaching. You don't even know if you like
Mhm.
design. You don't even know if you like podcasting. So,
Mhm.
like, how could you record 20 podcast episodes and then pay attention to what you pay attention to? Did you even like that? I love this question. Would it be a good thing if that succeeds?
Mhm.
We just assume success would be great. But I've started things and I've gone, whoa, I don't actually like that. I'm not sure why, but that
Mhm.
would not be a good thing if it succeeded. I got 10x that I had the demand over here. And so like sometimes I start an area of my business and I go, I didn't love that.
Mhm.
Even though they said it was awesome and I want to pay you to do more of it, I'm like, time out. I didn't like that. So pay attention to us. And we are so outward focused. It's
Mhm.
so easy to be voyeuristic or observant on a good day of other people's lives. And we're so unobservant of ourselves. And somebody else could go, Tyler, it really feels like you don't actually like doing that. Like I get to see you in your zone, helping us breathe deeper and get in ice baths and have new ideas, and I can see the glory of God on you. And I could just, you're having fun.
Mhm.
You're just in your zone. I don't
Mhm.
know why. That's not my zone. That's your zone. But in that, I'm coming alive because you're coming alive.
Yep.
And so that's where we need each other. You're trying to do this in isolation. I don't know how that works. We got to figure out our wiring when other people say to me,
Mhm.
comment. There's a stray comment. Sadly, I wasn't in a local coffee shop. I was in a Starbucks back in the day. Forgive me. And a guy said, Alan, you're a connector.
Mhm.
Whenever I want to know someone in our city, I come to you to see if you have a connection to them. That comment changed my life. I had never heard it said that clearly. You are a connector. Now, that's one of the top three words I use to describe myself. If I want to be useful in our community, useful to humanity, and I want to continue to connect you and others to meaningful people. But
Mhm.
if that dude had not said that to me, I'm not sure I would be where I'm at today. One comment in a godforsaken Starbucks.
Yes. For whatever it's worth, I do most of my writing at Starbucks because they open earlier than everywhere, and I'm not going to see anybody I know at Starbucks. So don't tell anybody, but I hide at Starbucks in the morning a lot.
It's our
Um,
secret. No one else has to know it.
yes, yeah, please don't tell anyone. Um, okay, so you said I've been in things that I didn't love. I was not alive. This succeeded and it wasn't thriving, which to me says, and of course I know you well, you've quit things. You've changed. Your brother has also made a name for himself talking about failure and these transitions. What role does like quitting or leaving or changing or failing play in this growth of designing the life you want to live? And how does one approach letting a failure be a failure or leaving something or quitting something important? You've helped me, for what it's worth, quit many things in my life. I'm a professional quitter, and I couldn't be more proud of it, to be honest. What does that look like, and what wisdom would you give someone who is on the precipice of a failure or quitting or transitioning?
All right, I got three pathways in. You tell me what you want first: relational, spiritual, or practical.
Ooh, I mean, my bend is always spiritual, but I think between spiritual and like somebody's work, I'd be curious about you talking about.
Okay. So let me go spiritual, practical. Let me hit relational last. Pruning, which is actually agricultural. It is
So good.
necessary to
Mhm.
take good things and cut them off. Like I'm talking about fruit bearing stuff. I'm talking about beautiful roses, to cut them off so there's physically enough water and nourishment to go in to those spots. In a culture of excess, that's probably the hardest thing to do. It's actually an act of resistance, like Stephen Pressfield talks about in The War of Art, to eliminate good things.
Mhm.
Everybody who comes to me, Tyler, for coaching is succeeding. And success creates problems. I'm actually working on a talk for a group, the problems with success.
Mhm.
And they're all going to be nodding, going, holy crap, you're reading my mail, because nobody tells you about that. And one of the problems is when everything works, you got a problem. When most things work, you got a problem. When even half the things work, you got a problem, because you got to cut off good things that are connected to good people and nourishing things that are good and true and beautiful and go, I actually need to do less of. So I think underneath the spiritual is an abundance mentality that for me, I choose to say, I trust God that there's more where that came from.
Mhm.
So that's the spiritual. The practical underneath it is that we're overloaded and overwhelmed. We have too many things going on. Just simply, we cannot nurture all the things. That phrase, you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. And somebody the other day, it's like, oh man, I'd love someday to live in another country. Cool. But you can't go live in another country for 6 years and experience Guatemala and be the best neighbor in your current street that you live in. Like you can have either, you just can't have both. You know, you choose. And I think that's so helpful for us to go like, man, what do I want? For some people, it's like you could be wildly wealthy. And the choice may be between that and pursuing your book writing career that actually for you wouldn't sell very well, but you want to write these mythical stories and you could actually fund your book writing career. Like I know people that have done that. Like that's worth more than actually me having more money in the bank. Okay. Like you do you choose that. That's the practical. Lastly, relational. The best stuff in life is relationship and it's connection. And we're living in an isolation moment. We're living in this disconnection society in so many ways.
Mhm.
And if relationships are going to flourish, we're going to have to say no to so many different things. To me, those three things braid together
Mhm.
to say that the strongest, no, probably the most resilient, healthy leaders that I know are great quitters. And they have chosen to quit as sad as it is and hard as it is relationships to prune things that are good but aren't best, and then practically to literally say, I cannot pay attention to 100 things in the course of my day. I have this little thing, Tyler. It's actually a journal we created called the Right Side Up Journal. And I write, here's what I'm doing today. And I write it physically, and it looks like a very small amount of things.
Mhm.
I say, this is all I can be good at and attentive to today. That's it. And
Mhm.
at the end is usually a good conversation with my wife, or go on a walk here and attend to my physical health, or make sure I get my daughter to this place and not leave her at this time, and like have a date with my son and make sure we go out to Chipotle. And like, that's it. The other night it was the F1 movie and Chipotle with my son. And it was just like, hey, if Manny and I have 3 hours together, that's a win. I don't care if I sucked at work all day long. That is what matters. And so we can't just decide once. Every single day, I have to redecide on those three things: the relational, the practical, and
Mhm.
spiritual.
Yes. Which again, especially I can't help but notice when you were talking about the practical, you have to be in alignment and clear with where your wiring is. Back to that wiring and the clarity on that wiring is what will inform all of that.
The alignment piece, real quick, like, uh, so you run how many miles like a week is a solid week? Brag on yourself here.
I mean, I'll run anywhere between 30 to 70 miles depending on the week.
Unreal, unreal. So I don't know why, but one of my hips scoots out of alignment, which means one of my legs gets longer than the other. So I start to feel a knee pain in my opposite hip and go, huh, what's going on there? When my body's out of alignment. So I go to the chiropractor to like crack me back into place. They're not helping me run. They're not doing any of that work for me. The more I run when I'm out of alignment, the more jacked up my body gets.
Yes.
And so to me, it's okay, how do we have a chiropractor for our lives?
Mhm.
How do we come back to God as a chiropractor to our lives? How do we come back to community and friends for that to go, hey, man, it feels like you're out of alignment just a little bit. I can't even see when one of my legs is this much longer than the other, but the other knee feels a pain. It is always going to give you pain, but in another area of life than you see it coming. And so to me, if I feel like I'm losing at work, then I'll show up as a grumpy dad at home and I'll go off on something that's not a big deal. Like my kids did their chores 2 hours later or whatever. Or my wife had an expectation of me that I couldn't meet by me making dinner on time. And then I feel like a crappy husband. That's actually about me not closing a business deal. And I felt like I'm a crappy business guy. And so I took it out in this way. That is the pain in a different area of life. So, dude, that area of alignment, I freaking love that word, and I hate that word so much.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so here I'd be curious if you could just practically let us into your life then. What does that look like to be self-aware of your alignment? You know, like it's one thing to say, okay, I'm aware of my wiring. This is my Enneagram number. This is the things that make me come alive, but we can still get so numb to it. What would be some of your advice to practically say, this is how I stay self-aware? This is how I open myself up to God to speak into my alignment. This is how, like, how does Alan Briggs stay self-aware and can be maybe guided in paying attention to his alignment?
When it's all good or all bad in my mind, I perceive that it's all good or perceive that it's all bad, something's off. Um, I live a bit on the sunny side. I'm a realistic optimist, and I'm committed to optimism actually as a practice in my life. Um, but if somebody were to say, "Man, how you doing?" And if I were to say every area of my life is up and to the right, if I say that to you, Tyler, say BS. What's hard right now?
Mhm,
And if you change the questions, you actually change
mhm,
the context. You actually change the atmosphere. And which is why you've heard me around the fire pit not go, "Hey, what's your name and what do you do for a living?" The question rotates, but it's going to be something about who you are. That's a view that I'm not looking at who I am. If I'm just like, "Oh, everything's up in the right," sure. Well, if your business and your kids are doing great, and your marriage, you just went on a date night last night, and you just got a book published, you just whatever, like those are some areas of your life, but that doesn't say, "Hey, how are you attending to the grief about that thing that you lost last year?"
mhm,
Why are you not paying attention to that friend
mhm,
who has truth for you? And you're like, "Yeah, not convenient right now." Like it's not all up and to the right. And then on those days when you feel like it's all falling down, it all sucks. I'm a terrible dad. I'm terrible at what I do here. I don't show up well for people. Also not true. And so I'm looking for threads of both. And for me, the marker that I'm healthy personally is tension. That there are all these things that are not problems to be solved, they're tensions to be managed. Where like I can tell you the tension of a great sadness that I live with.
mhm,
And we've talked about this offline. I can tell you a tension that I live within every single day of my life.
mhm,
I can tell you relational tensions that I live within with friends. And if I can't, they're still there. I just have lost awareness of that. And I'm either up in the clouds or I'm down in a hole in the dirt, and neither one is true. And yet both are true all the time. There is good and there is hard. Both can be true at the same time. And Julie and I talk a lot about that and this tension of just, hey, that's life, man. Like life is hard. It ain't Tyler's fault. It ain't my fault or my job's fault. Like this is life. And there is great pain and great beauty right in front of us. Both are true every moment, every day.
yeah. You mentioned that core word of connection, that you are a connector. And of course, we are in this relational epidemic of isolation and loneliness. Being a connector, being a relational guru that you are. Um, how do we address this? What do we do? What would you say to someone who is lonely? I think first of all, what if somebody's lonely out there? How would you, the great connector, advise them to break out of that? And then secondly, maybe you're not a lonely person. How does the rest of us help contribute to a society that is longing for relational connection? What can we do to combat the growing epidemic of loneliness in our modern world?
I'm going to say something controversial. Loneliness and isolation are two different things.
Mhm.
Loneliness is a feeling, isolation is a way of life. I'm okay if not everybody agrees with me on this, but part of what I'm trying to do, especially when I work with leaders,
Mhm.
what I'm trying to do is normalize the feeling of loneliness,
Mhm.
not the life of loneliness that 100% of the time, but that like in a beautiful moment. One of the most human things is in a beautiful moment. If like I saw the sunset the other night on a run by myself, Tyler,
Mhm.
and I was sad my wife wasn't there so we could freaking make out and watch the sunset.
Mhm.
Um, because I'm not wired to watch a sunset by myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, and and so you hold tension again in that moment. So just to normalize that, like that makes sense. You just saw one of the most beautiful sunsets you've ever seen,
Mhm.
and you were by yourself. Isolation, I am trying to normalize some of the feelings of loneliness that we will feel. And I'm trying to demonize a life of isolation that ends up where it goes, oh, nobody will understand. So I'm just not going to share with anybody. No, I would rather risk being misunderstood or rejected, but go, hey, here's what I'm experiencing, even if nobody else can.
Mhm.
So there's a lot here. I love the question, but I just want to say we're all going to get lonely from time to time. Now, living in chronic loneliness is different.
Mhm.
But have I created a life that leaves me isolated? And you could be wildly succeeding and accidentally end up in a life that's isolated. We're still responsible for that.
Mhm.
Because if you're like, oh, they'd never understand. I made $100,000 deal today. They'd never understand. I lost 2 million of my 10 million on the stock market today. Hold on a second. You need to share with somebody. You just had a grave loss.
Mhm.
I bet your friend can half understand, even if they can't. So there's a difference between loneliness and isolation. Secondly, what patterns are we creating and what mindsets do we have that tell us nobody will get me? Nobody will understand. That's where I've had the issue. I think about a walk we went on months ago around your neighborhood,
Mhm.
and it was just like, hey man, I'm at a transition point.
Mhm.
And feel like sharing this with you makes sense. And I felt heard and understood. You didn't need to solve anything. I was going to do it anyway. It wasn't like, I don't think I asked for your opinion, did I?
No.
But you were just like, I see you. That's good. I know you. And that's just what I needed. Somebody
Mhm.
from inside the story enough.
Mhm.
And so I think we need to change our expectations too. To
Mhm.
go like, I don't know, what there's a 40-minute walk or something.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you don't need the whole world to understand. You need a 40-minute walk with a friend. That's it. And that I think changing our expectations is so huge because frustration and disappointment are always a gap in expectations,
Mhm.
usually at ourselves or secretly at somebody else without explaining it.
Yeah.
And so I think we need some expectation work. I think we need to ask, wait, have I created a way of isolation in my life? And I need to correct that. I just personally, like my mentor, Jesus of Nazareth, dude's lonely and he's got guys around him.
Mhm.
They're kind of on mission with him, but they don't get it. And it's like, that's okay. I don't expect anyone else to understand the challenge of adopted kids from trauma. My two oldest are adopted. And my wife can very well understand my challenge, but she also doesn't know what it's like to be a dad of kids in trauma. I don't like to know what it's like to be a mom of kids in trauma. And so you can be in a great marriage, you can be in a great friendship and feel lonely and still not be isolated. So pull those apart. And then again, how do I need to change my expectations?
Mhm.
And maybe, just maybe, sharing my whole heart on social media all the time is actually a pathway to more isolation than it is to understanding. Maybe I just need a 40-minute walk with Tyler.
Mhm. What would you say then is one of the primary ingredients to somebody designing a life of isolation? If that is what we're trying to demonize, what is the fuel that causes so many of people to create that kind of life in their story?
Starts in mindset.
Mhm.
Nobody will understand is usually that
Mhm.
storyline we loop. Nobody will understand. Nobody will understand. Lots of people will understand. Maybe nobody's written a book on it. Maybe you haven't found a magazine article on it, but a lot of people will understand. So I think That's the lie below our actions, the mindset. And then I think what patterns do we regularly have? Like, for example, exercise. It's good. We need it. Um, some choose to exercise by themselves, and some like join a running club. And to me, it's like, hey, it's your call in that. But dude, if I realize, man, I need connection, I got little kids at home, I don't have much time, then like maybe I need to combine my exercise and get close to people at the gym. Like those homies that know each other super well and they like work out together. And they don't work out much. They just like hang out with a huge 1 gallon jug there. I like do all my workout in 30 minutes and they're like, deuces, I'm out of here. But apparently they like hanging out at the gym all freaking morning long and doing like 3 sets. Then they found community that I haven't found. That's different, right? And that to them is something different. We have designed our lives many times for the exact result we're getting. And also, maybe we're not doing it wrong. Maybe we haven't been doing it long enough. And so it takes around 6 weeks of new patterns for things to change. So maybe you are doing some great things to head toward relationship. You just haven't been doing it long enough.
Yeah.
Maybe you're in the wrong spot. Maybe the expectation you had was that church small group would do it, or that support group would do it. And maybe you just need a 40-minute walk with a friend. And maybe you're looking for the right thing in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Maybe you haven't been doing it long enough. Maybe you haven't broken through the shell. Maybe you haven't been vulnerable enough. And that's okay. Like it takes practice. Maybe you don't even know what it takes to be vulnerable as a dad or as a dude or as a mom or as an employee or whatever. So I just think we beat ourselves up so many times. I'm not getting the results, so I must be doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's true.
Yeah. So here we are talking about designing our life, going against isolation, pursuing things that are in line with our wiring. I'm someone, as you know, who has chased his dreams hard, who has tried to clarify my alignment and have worked very hard. And I think of, for example, starting my coffee company, and I was so passionate about it. And also I was sleeping there overnight, wouldn't see my wife for many days. And then my mom dies and my son is born and we double in size. And all of a sudden I wake up one morning and I had been sleeping for 8 days. And I couldn't remember my name and I couldn't think straight. I didn't know where I was. So when we talk about burnout, I literally forgot who I was. And I was also in Good Morning America saying top 10 coffee shops in America. It was successful. It was great. I'm winning coffee competitions and I was burned out. You, Alan, are an expert on burnout. You are one who helps people avoid that. Um, how does one design a life, chase their dreams? It takes hard work. You know more than anybody. I couldn't have started Loyal without copious amounts of hard work, and yet I probably could have done it and not gone through what I went through. How do we design our life without burning out?
I'm gonna share high level, low level. There's a poet named David White, and he said the opposite of burned out is not well rested, it's wholehearted. I mean, that arrested me when I read that. The opposite of burned out is not well rested, it's wholehearted. And the people that I continually see burning out, and I work with folks who are on the edge of burnout. I have been on the edge. I would not say I've fully burned out before. Are living with half their heart, part of their heart. We're over indexing on certain things and under on another. And there's another word called depersonalization. Like, in other words, we're treating ourselves like machines. The least fulfilled I've ever been in the seasons of work when I look back are the ones where I treated myself like a machine. Come on, Alan, write, produce, think, do sessions, deliver results for people, send emails, get her done. And the part of my heart I wasn't nurturing was the part that could go out, take a walk, see a sunset, eat a meal with a friend, laugh, enjoy, sleep, feel permission to nap. And when I've been most fulfilled is actually when I've been going hard at work and then resting really, really hard. And
Mhm.
even in the summer, I don't work as hard in the summers. And I feel super fulfilled and I'm still meeting my client demands. Maybe even more than, maybe even better than. And so I don't understand the mystery of rest. I still don't get it. I don't understand why we need to sleep 8 hours a night and a third of our life in order to function really. I don't understand it. I don't understand something called Sabbath, but I just know I'm better after it. And then I'm less grumpy and that I'm like actually a wholehearted human.
Mhm.
So let's start with that. What does wholeheartedness look like for you? There's a part of your life you've probably been longing for, and it's usually the part as a kid we experienced.
Mhm.
Now, if you're from trauma, maybe that's different. But like baseball to me, I mean, we both love baseball.
Mhm.
I don't like have to follow the scores and everything, but when I throw a baseball with someone, it's just a sign, it's a get to. I don't pitch in any leagues. I'm too old, man. I'm gonna throw my arm out. I just
Mhm.
like baseball. I don't know why. It's simple to me. It's of childhood to me. And there are times I haven't thrown the baseball for 2 years
Mhm.
or gone to a baseball game for a year and just like, oh man, I love this. So it's fighting for our hearts back. It's fighting for full heartedness instead of wholehearted.
Mhm.
Get really practical on that. Hobbies. We usually abandon our hobbies
Mhm.
when we're older that were like our lifeline as a kid.
Mhm.
Like fishing to me as a kid, I was like a suburban redneck. And I would literally like put on jorts, like
Mhm.
real cut off jorts, grew up in the South, no shirt on, go out and go bass fishing for half the day, then go do landscaping and then go play baseball. And like that was my life as a kid. And it was incredible. And then I look back and I'm like, man, I like abandoned all three of those things.
Yeah.
And I like didn't fish for a while, didn't do any landscaping upkeep for a while, and didn't play any baseball for a while. And I realized this was like the best parts of life. And so how do I re-hobby those things into my life? I don't know for you, Tyler, but there's just like, is there something you've always wanted to do?
Mhm.
Like a hobby you've wanted to pick up? You just think it's freaking cool.
It's funny you say that. There's a couple things, but I took baseball so serious in high school.
Yeah.
There's a couple things. But one is I want to be in a play, and
Okay.
I
That's
never
good.
did that.
Awesome. Make that happen. How do
Yeah.
we get Tyler in a play? Okay.
Yeah. So that's one thing.
Keep
And I
going.
I want to make a punk album also. And so that will definitely happen. In fact,
Go.
I know I'm putting the cart before the horse, but my second book, I plan on releasing it with a punk album. So I'm trying to align my life to where after my first book, which isn't even published yet, when that
Yeah,
one's done and the second one that I have in the hopper will come out with a punk album for sure. So those are two things that I have still deep inside of me
I
that
love
will be made manifest.
I love it. Hey, what would have to be true in order
Yeah.
to have book two with Punk Album? Like,
Yeah.
I love that. And some of that probably has like deep meaning to you. The other parts, like, I just think that would be fun.
Mhm.
So, like, for me, I want to do a picture book that looks like a lot of scrap art and whatnot. And everybody has told me why that won't happen, too expensive, publisher would never go for it, whatever. And I'm like, I hear you, and I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't know who's going to help me around that. I don't know. I'm not the best artist in the world visually, but like we're going to make that happen.
Mhm.
Um, but what's interesting for me, that thing was welding. For 20 years, I'm going to weld. Like when I walk into like a brewery or a distillery or like just like a cool neighborhood with steel, I'm like one track mind. I'm just like, how's it? Oh, that looks so cool. I love the rust. Like, I don't know why. I freaking love rusted steel. And so years ago, my wife was like, yeah, you should pursue welding. You should do it. During my last sabbatical, I was like, okay, I'm going to pick up a hobby that I haven't done. And I heard this phrase, somebody said, when men get around 40, they stop doing things that they've never done because they think they can't be good at them.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was like, screw that.
Mhm.
I'm not doing that. And so I became a beginner again. And I went and bought a welder and I said, I'm going to apprentice under this dude and learn to weld.
Mhm.
And I sucked.
Mhm.
I'm still like not awesome, but I can connect two pieces of steel together. And it brought me great joy. Like, I made this. And I was the other night, I was actually landscaping some steel I-beams together. And like, I don't know, I can't tell my wife why this is so cool that we have these tons of steel in our front yard. But I don't think she thinks it's as cool as I do, by the way, Tyler. I just think it's so freaking cool. And like, just because we need get to things in our lives in a have to world, just get tos in a have to world. We need get to friends. I don't know. I don't expect you to fix anything. I just like getting together, man. Let's get together for a drink. Let's get together for coffee. Let's get together for a walk. And it's just a get to for me. So I think it's how do I keep prioritizing my heart by prioritizing my get tos?
Yeah.
And how do we get your punk album and book out?
Yes, for sure. I was just talking with a friend who did his first Ironman, and I was asking him like, what was the most fulfilling part? And you expect to hear the story of him crossing the line. And he's middle-aged and he said, the most fulfilling part was I had to learn how to swim.
Mm,
And he goes, I haven't had to learn anything new in a long time. And he said it was so fun learning how to swim. He's like, I knew how to be in water. I knew how to not drown, but I didn't know how to swim. And more than getting the picture, more than getting the Iron Man tattoo, more than any of it, he said the most fulfilling part of me was being 37 and having to watch tutorials of like 20-year-old college guys on YouTube teach me how to swim. And just to like that point of saying learning something new, having a he's not going to ever be a professional triathlete, but just learning how to swim is what fulfilled him in this way. And again, I want to make point the point of this is what helps us avoid burnout. This is what helps us live a wholehearted life. That this isn't just doing stuff for fun. It is the antidote to blowing up.
and let's just name we're built for hard things.
Mhm.
Like you're pushing your body to do things you never thought were possible, right?
Absolutely.
And so we are built for hard things. Like we are built to physically lift hard things.
Mhm.
There's a thing called the metabolic middle. Peter Attia and other people that talk about lifespan. Of like we're built for zone 5 things, like where your heart is pumping hard. And guess what? For recovery,
Mhm.
which is like zone like 0, like
Yes.
zone 1 minus, where we're in recovery mode and we're built for zone 2, but we live our lives in this metabolic middle of zone 3 and 4. And I've watched the leaders who are burning out, Tyler, a lot of times are living at kind of 70%. They're kind of always working and kind of resting. They're kind of on, kind of off. You will find me fully on at work and fully off.
Yes.
You will find me not answering texts if they have to do with dates and scheduling, and answering them if you're like, hey, bro, what's going on in your life? I will answer that one in an evening and not the other one.
Mhm.
And so I just think it's worth saying it's not that we are not built to do hard things. We actually need to do hard things, lift hard things, participate in hard work. We are built for work,
Mhm.
pending and naming were works within the garden early,
Yes.
early on. And so it isn't about the hardness usually. It's about, man, is this going against the grain of who I am? Am I depersonalizing myself? I'm not a machine. And guess what? I can produce some awesome stuff. I can't produce awesome stuff 7 days a week. And I can't produce awesome stuff 21 days in a row. And I can't produce awesome stuff 2 straight years without resting. It's gonna go downhill. Eventually it's gonna tank and I'm gonna quit.
Yeah. Mm. So, I mean, that kind of goes to it, but one of your core questions is what's the cost of burnout? Which how would you answer that? And then maybe just walk us into how do you guide people in avoiding burnout and again, maybe in a practical way. So hobbies, if somebody is on that case, say they are about to wake up and not having slept, what's the emergency button they need to push? Is it a therapist? Is it do they need to quit their job? How does somebody like hyper practically who's about to die, metaphorically here, or maybe literally, what do they do? What do they do?
Yeah. So first of all, it's a spectrum. So if it's early in the like a yellow light comes on, we're like, ooh, man, I don't know. And like a friend is like, hey, man, why are you always grumpy?
Mhm.
A friend of mine, his wife said, like, I'm done with you always being mopey. And we're like, oh, and he's like, he needed that. Like only a wife could be like, yeah, I'm kind of done with that. Like, stop it. Um, and then I love therapy. I love taking time off. Sometimes it's medical leave because you're like physically sick. So this is a spectrum. It hits in different ways. I'm not trying to overly simplify this, but if it's early in the process, then just to go, what's not working for me? Or what? was working and now it's not. The stuff that got you here isn't going to get you there. And what season am I in as well? Like people come to me who have little kids and are just like, hey man, like how do I do this? And they're expecting me to be like, you need to leave your kids at home and take a break for a week. I'm like if you can do that, cool. Most people can't.
Mhm.
But for my wife and I, it was clarifying what can we fight for? And we're like, a YMCA membership. We're broke as a joke, but we had a cheap YMCA membership. We would go walk laps on the track, and then we would go sit in the hot tub and we would drink terrible coffee out of foam cups in the lobby.
Mhm.
That was our date. I know I'm a romantic, okay? Uh, Guilty as charged, but that's what we could fight for. And so, what can you fight for right now? What can you fight for? And it was just clarifying that, like, we need connection time. We need time from them. This is free childcare. Let's make this thing happen for us. And so, those were the yellow lights for us. We were like, we have to keep this going. I think, why are you not receiving a Sabbath if you are a person who believes in God and believes that God set the universe into place? And then we think through this day, this beautiful day we just get to receive. Why am I not in a judgmental way, but like literally, why do I not believe I can receive this? And maybe we have scarcity mentality that's underneath that. Talk to a therapist about that. You might have picked that up from your family of origin or way back, and you don't even know you're carrying it, right? Like you carry stuff from your childhood, Tyler. I carry stuff, and I needed other people to help me figure that out. So that is on the deep side of it. The other piece is, all right, Tyler, if you were going to burn out,
Mhm.
how would you do it? Let's design a burnout plan for you and flip it. And then you go, whoa, okay. So if I were going to burn out, I would do a lot of little number stuff, little detail things. I would work too much in these odd hours. I would stop creating beautiful things
Mhm.
and writing things and sketching things out. And that's how I would do it. Okay. And then I'd go, well, how far away are you? And sometimes people are 3 months, sometimes they're 12 months from that. And to say you're not going to burn out from a short season of launching a business, if that is the season of it. You're not just going to burn out from, raising your kids right now and wiping butts in this early season and not sleeping. That's hard. You're going to get through that in 6 months or whatever. And it is complex for many people. Caregiving is something that my wife leading a foster care agency, somebody's dying relative who's been literally actively dying for 2 years and they've been the caretaker. Like that's complex stuff that we're not just going to solve. So I'm not talking about those, but are you actively and accidentally living out your burnout plan? And if so, how do we move almost in the exact opposite direction of that?
No, that's an awesome exercise. I've never thought about that before. Um, that's really cool. What role, Alan, does something like a sabbatical play in this anti-burnout movement? Plug for Alan's book called Anti-Burnout. There it is. It's actually in my other office. I'm a bad podcaster. I can't hold it up because I have two offices, and my greatest peril as a book lover is which books live in which office. Um,
Dude,
all that to
don't gotta
say,
brag. Just because you got two offices, most of us have one, if we have one.
I know it. So what is a sabbatical and what role does that play in this journey of trying to be healthy and living a wholehearted life?
Sabbatical is just an extended period of time for rest and replenishment. Pulling out of the primary work of your life, you may sell real estate on the side and have to do a little bit of that. You may have a little side gig and run a design company and need to do that. Just a little bit pulling away from a primary work for the sake of rest and replenishment, not for writing a book, not for doing another project, launching another company. That's called taking time off, one thing, to do other work, so that we can rest, replenish, and focus on other things that deeply matter. And roughly, I would say a month or more.
Mhm.
The saddest part about this conversation, Tyler, is that very few people will ever get this opportunity. Um, and it literally makes me sad. What I love is that teachers get this. Like teachers are heroes,
Mhm.
especially today, who wear about 7 different hats. So that maybe is the sort of cleanest look at this is that we understand teachers need detox time, i.e. the summer, to take 8 weeks away so that you actually still love kids when you start again in that. It actually has been pretty prominent in religious settings, been prominent in churches, some nonprofits, but business world is actually finding out about it. So there's a Harvard Business Review article about this that's blowing people away. I actually wrote a white paper on it with our team on like, whoa, possibilities for business. Google, Microsoft, others. There's actually a list of companies that have realized that when you're away, you create your best ideas. Kind of those moments in the shower where you're not thinking about work, that you suddenly have an idea. Imagine that in macro. So that is just the overall concept. I think what it does is allows it, there's actually this old word in Hebrew called Shemitah. And what it means is that we are pulling away from certain things and then we are resetting certain things. Pulling away in order to reset. Pulling away is essentially looking back at the things which before was like literally releasing people from debt slavery and actual slavery and commitments they'd made, bad decisions that they'd made, and looking back and saying you're free. And then reset is literally about how will I do things differently? And that is the natural thing that happens when we pull away for more than a couple weeks to look back and like, not all that's good, man. I had to name I've been on 3 sabbaticals. I've been name my disappointments and my wins.
Mhm.
And I mean, I was like borderline depressed for a day or two
Mhm.
when I looked at the disappointments. I hoped for this by now, and I got this. And that's what I needed was the bottom of the pool that I pushed off from.
Mhm.
And then to look ahead and go, here's the life I'm designing.
Mhm.
Here is the thing I should be doing and have to be doing. Here's where I've fallen short and need to be doing more of. Here are my drains. Here are my fills. And here's how I'm going to live that life.
Yeah. So, of course, I'm sure you get this question. I don't mean to be spicy, but like, we don't all get that chance. We are not all pastors. We're not all whatever. And if this is such an important thing, if it's echoed and etched into the Hebrew language, what does the person who works at a bank as a teller bust in their ass to take care of their family that won't get a sabbatical? How do they engage in a life where they can still rest or find rehabilitation in their body and soul from a world that is always demanding overproduction?
Yeah. First of all, there are realities in our world that hold people back from that. There are systems and poverty does that, and um, privilege can strip that away from other people to be able to do that. So I just want to name that it's not fair and it's not across the board. And again, that's I think where my sadness comes from, where I wish everybody could experience this.
Mhm.
Certain countries have paternity and maternity marked in for that, and that's this beautiful chance to reset. Is that the most relaxing time? Of course not. I didn't say relaxation, but how do we reset into I'm a parent now and I'm a parent again mode, giving 3 months? Like our country's terrible at this.
Mhm.
We're like, cool, bro, you ready to get back to work? Now it's getting better. Laws are getting better, especially in Colorado, and we're zooming out on things like that. Um, the same things that work in macro, Tyler, work in micro. But I also want to challenge somebody instead of, oh, that could never happen to me. Well, just like that vacation that Julie and I could make happen, just like Honolulu Marathon for you, what would have to be true for me to intentionally pull away from work? What's internally the lie? And it could be you saving $100 a month for a long period of time to go like, okay, I was a bank teller and I truly want to do something else. And at some point, I'm going to have to take the risk.
Mhm.
Very few people get a sabbatical without a major risk because the fear is in here that I can't, whatever. I can't return with the same strength. I can't be good at this again. I can't get back on this wild bucking bronco of my life and my culture and my routine and my company and ride this thing again. And rest always requires trust, period. Rest always requires trust, period. When I take a 30-minute nap, that requires trust every single time because I'm like 30 minutes of email. I could knock out 6 or 10 more emails. Let's go. Because, right, this consumeristic culture says one more gig, one more thing. That's the good life. You can get it. I'm tired and I must sleep. And I am putting my phone in another room and going to sleep. How much more for 30 days than 30 minutes?
Mhm.
So I push people hard on the practical. I understand not all people will get it. I understand the poor are the ones that miss out. Many times they're working 2, 3, 4 jobs just to make ends meet. Again, those people are heroes to continue to do what you do to provide for your family. Again, all work is dignifying. And there's this beautiful thing called Sabbath that I think most of us, it's within reach.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Alan, I am just, so thankful and there's just so much more we could talk about and even just the ways in which you've impacted my life. And yeah, I'd love to do an episode someday where we could even maybe reminisce over all the ways in which you've coached and helped lead me to even where I am, and just to give you the props you deserve. But um, for the sake of not taking up too much more of your time, as we start to wrap up, what is your core message? Like, what's the message you would want to echo out to the world, if you were to have one that just echoes on forever? What's the core message of Alan Briggs?
Who you are matters more than what you do.
Mhm.
Your essence, the person inside you matters way more than what you do. And whether that's landed you in prison or whether that has landed you on the front page in the New York Stock Exchange, who you are matters more than what you do.
Yeah, I'm so good. Alan, where can people find you? What do you got to plug? What are you proud to share with the world right now?
I would say if anything resonates, pick this thing up. You don't make all that much money off books, but I'll just say you put your life into them. You
Hmm.
know that
Hmm.
as a content creator. So pick up Anti-Burnout. I don't want to spoil it, but my favorite part of the book, I call toilet reading. There are 2 to 4 page sections at the end. They don't all have to connect with anything huge, but they're just little thoughts along the way. We can pull those threads. One numero deuce at a time, or one 5 minute break before meetings at a time, or one um, 10-minute section of thinking before bed at a time. So just pick up my book, Anti-Burnout, share it with a friend, have a conversation. I've put my life into that for the last 10 years, and it's been super fulfilling to get that thing into a real, actual book.
Yeah, I love it. The book is Anti-Burnout. Where else can people find you?
Yeah, stayforth.com, not go forth, but stayforth.com. That's me and a group of people around me doing some meaningful things to help people. I love team, I believe in team. And so the stuff I post isn't all that great unless you love my family or love tacos or love seeing the spots I go on walks for or whatever. But just head on over to stayforth.com to just take a peek at what me and my team love and how we help people.
Awesome. His name is Alan Briggs. The book is Anti-Burnout. Stayforth.com is the place. Thanks so much, my man. Love you to the moon.
I love you. I love watching what you're doing. You're going after it. I know the secret risks that a lot of people don't take. You're not just podcasting and writing and putting your thoughts down and leading cool workshops and helping people calm down and helping people hear from God. Like this is sacred work to you, man. So I gotta shout you out for all the risks you've taken. And man, thanks for going first so that other people can come next.
Yeah. Thanks, Alan. Love ya.